Hindu Mysticism, Lecture 1. The earliest form of mysticism in the Hindu tradition is found in the ancient sacrificial system of the Vedas. The people of that age believed that the entire universe was maintained through sacrifice, and that human beings must cooperate with the cosmic order by performing sacrificial rites. These rites were not simply physical actions, they were connected with deep symbolic meaning. Every element of the ritual represented a cosmic principle. Mysticism, in its earliest stage, expressed itself through the belief that the human performer could contact the unseen powers by correctly carrying out each detail of the sacrifice. The altar was a miniature universe. The fire represented divine energy. The offerings symbolized human cooperation with celestial beings. The chants and hymns were believed to vibrate with the fundamental rhythms of creation. This type of mysticism relied heavily on the perfect performance of outer rituals. The priests, the Brahmins, became the custodians of this knowledge. They believed that if the ritual was performed with precision, its results would follow automatically. The mystic power was in the sacrificial act itself, not in personal spiritual experience. The gods were bound by the laws of sacrifice and were compelled to respond when the rituals were properly executed. From this worldview arose the idea that the universe is governed by a moral and ritual law known as RTA. Everything operates within this cosmic order. Even the gods cannot violate it. Human beings, through sacrifice, maintain harmony with this order and ensure prosperity, protection, and spiritual merit. Over time, thinkers began to reflect on the deeper meaning of the sacrificial acts. They asked, what is the true essence of the offering? What exactly is being given, and to whom? These reflections gradually transformed outer ritual into inner contemplation. Some sages began to interpret the meaning of each ritual symbolically. The fire became the fire within the heart. The offerings became the thoughts and desires offered into the inner flame of awareness. The gods became aspects of the universal self. Thus, the focus slowly shifted from outer ritual to inner realization. The early mystics suggested that the true sacrifice was internal and that the external ceremony was merely a symbolic representation of a deeper spiritual truth. In this way, sacrificial mysticism became the starting point for later developments in Hindu thought. The sacrificial worldview laid the foundation for the Upanishadic teaching that all existence is ultimately one, and that true spiritual progress comes not from ritual action, but from inner knowledge. Yet it is important to understand that without the sacrificial stage, the later philosophical developments would not have taken the form that they did. Sacrifice remained a central idea throughout the evolution of Hindu spirituality. Even after the rise of philosophical mysticism and devotional mysticism, the language of sacrifice continued to be used to describe the inner offering of the ego, the surrender of desire, and the dedication of one's actions to a higher reality. This early stage represents humanity's first attempt to understand the relationship between the visible world and the invisible powers behind it. Although this sacrificial mysticism relied on ritual rather than direct spiritual experience, it paved the way for deeper forms of mysticism by encouraging reflection, symbolism, and the search for hidden meaning. Hindu Mysticism, Lecture 2. The Upanishads represent the second great stage in the development of Hindu mysticism. They mark a shift from ritual and ceremony toward inward reflection and direct spiritual experience. In the sacrificial age, people believed that the universe was sustained by ritual actions. But in the Upanishads, the central question became, what is the ultimate reality behind all appearances? And what is the deepest truth about the human self? The sages of the Upanishads turned away from the complexity of ritual and looked within. They began to ask whether the essence of existence could be found by exploring consciousness itself. Their search led to the discovery that the core of every human being is not merely a body or a mind, but an inner self, the Atman, which is identical with the ultimate reality of the universe, known as Brahman. This teaching is the heart of Upanishadic mysticism, the realization that the individual self and the universal ground of existence are one and the same. The mystic no longer tries to influence the gods through sacrifice. Instead, they seek to know their own true nature. Knowledge becomes more powerful than ritual. Meditation becomes more meaningful than outward action. The Upanishads describe this discovery through vivid metaphors. They say that just as sparks arise from fire or waves arise from the ocean, all beings arise from the infinite reality of Brahman. Though the waves appear separate, they never cease to be the ocean. In the same way, human beings appear separate, but their essence is one with the totality of existence. To realize this truth is to transcend fear, sorrow, and ignorance. This realization is not an intellectual belief, but a profound inner awakening. The mystics of the Upanishads insisted that true knowledge cannot be obtained through study alone. It requires direct experience, an inward turning of awareness where the individual encounters the silence behind thought. In that silence, they discover a reality that is timeless, unchanging, and infinite. The Upanishads also teach that the world of change and multiplicity is not the final truth. It is a temporary appearance, like images reflected in a mirror. Beneath these appearances lies the undivided unity of Brahman. Mystical practice involves seeing through the illusion of separateness and awakening to the oneness that underlies all things. This new viewpoint gave rise to a distinct type of spiritual discipline. Instead of elaborate rituals, the seeker now practiced meditation, self-restraint, contemplation, and ethical living. Purity of mind became more important than precision in ritual. The inward path became the primary method of approaching the sacred. Because the self is identical with the universal reality, the Upanishads declare that liberation is not something acquired from outside. It is the uncovering of what is already within. The true nature of the self is blissful, infinite, and free. Ignorance hides this truth, and knowledge reveals it. When the seeker awakens to their real nature, they become liberated from the cycle of birth and death. The Upanishadic mystics saw the universe as a living expression of consciousness. Everything that exists is filled with the same reality that dwells within the human heart. This insight brought a profound sense of unity, reverence, and inner peace. The practitioner no longer felt separate from the world, from others, or from the divine. All distinctions dissolved in the awareness of one all-pervading reality. The mysticism of the Upanishads stands as one of the great turning points in Indian spiritual history. It shifted emphasis from ritual to knowledge, from outer action to inner discovery, from worship of the gods to realization of the self. The ideas found in these ancient texts shaped every later form of Hindu philosophy and remain a foundational part of the world's spiritual heritage. Hindu Mysticism, Lecture 3. Yoga represents the third major stage in the development of Hindu mysticism. While the Upanishads focused on inner realization through knowledge, the yoga tradition emphasized disciplined practice, mental control, and methodical steps toward spiritual experience. Yoga is not merely a philosophy. It is a practical system designed to transform consciousness. In the yoga view, the human mind is the main obstacle to mystical insight. Its constant activity, desires, and distractions prevent the seeker from perceiving the deeper layers of reality. The goal of yoga is to bring the mind under control so that the true nature of the self can be revealed. Through disciplined effort, the mind becomes still, and in that stillness, the seeker encounters a higher state of awareness. The foundational text of classical yoga is the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. These teachings describe a structured path known as the Eightfold Discipline. The first two stages, ethical conduct and self-discipline, purify the mind and create a stable foundation. The next stages involve physical postures and breath regulation, which prepare the body and mind for deeper concentration. Beyond these come practices of withdrawal from the senses, focused attention, meditation, and the final state of complete absorption. This last state, known as samadhi, is the culmination of yoga mysticism. In samadhi, the distinction between the observer and the observed disappears. The mind becomes perfectly still, and consciousness rests in its own pure nature. The practitioner experiences a profound sense of unity, clarity, and peace. This state is not a matter of belief or imagination. It is a direct inner realization achieved through continuous practice. Yoga's contribution to mysticism lies in its emphasis on technique. It offers a systematic method for quieting the mind and accessing deeper layers of awareness. While the Upanishads speak of the identity between the self and the universal reality, yoga provides the disciplined practices through which this truth can be directly experienced. The two traditions complement each other. One offers insight, the other provides the means. Another key aspect of yoga mysticism is its understanding of the subtle body. According to yoga, the human being is composed of physical, mental, and energetic layers. Within the energetic body flow channels known as nadis and centers called chakras. Mystical experience often arises when vital energy or prana is purified and directed through these channels. Yogic disciplines such as breath control and meditation help awaken this energy and guide it upward, producing expanded states of consciousness. Unlike the sacrificial mysticism of the early Vedic period, yoga does not rely on ritual. Unlike the philosophical mysticism of the Upanishads, it does not depend solely on knowledge. Yoga requires practice, perseverance, and mastery over the restless nature of the mind. Its path is open to all, regardless of intellectual ability or ritual skill. Anyone willing to practice with dedication can progress. Over the centuries, many forms of yoga developed: devotional, physical, energetic, and contemplative, but all of them share the same goal: the transformation of consciousness. Yoga mysticism is grounded in the conviction that human beings can rise above ordinary experience and attain a state of freedom, clarity, and inner stillness. The influence of yoga on later Hindu mysticism is immense. It shaped the practices of meditation, breath control, concentration, and inner discipline found in many spiritual traditions. Yoga gave seekers a practical, repeatable method for reaching the highest states of awareness. Through its techniques, the individual seeks not to control the external world, but to master the inner world, discovering the silent, luminous reality that lies beneath all thought and perception.